Good morning and welcome back to Margin. This morning I'm going to talk about 5 key steps to managing your debt in uncertain times. This is part 1, so let's jump right into it. So you may have heard me say that you cannot navigate where you want to go if you don't know where you are. And that's why at the beginning of this theme, we looked first at where you are. We briefly went over your plan to spend and looking at, okay, where are you exactly? How much are you spending in what categories? And what aspects do you need to have that reality check on? So it's easy to not only see the fact that we are living in uncertain times, but that most people don't know how to navigate their personal finances in uncertain times. And so I wanted to go into this today to look at how to navigate some of these key aspects, how to navigate some of these debt aspects, these aspects that are weighing on us in a time that has so much uncertainty. So in a recent call to action, I called you up to look at the lenders that you owe money to. Who do you owe money to? What institutions do you owe money to? And being able to look at that from a standpoint of knowing where you're at so that you can build out that trajectory, build out that vision. And I want to end this theme focusing on that aspect, focusing on what we started out with, which is looking at your vision and aligning your goals to eventually meet that vision and eventually hit that vision. So it's so easy to get caught up in what the media wants us to focus on, and it causes more and more uncertainty in our minds and in our hearts as we look at everything going on in the world. Now, what I try to remind people of is to control the controllables. Look at your life from a standpoint of what aspects do I have control over, and narrow your focus to that. Now, that doesn't mean you don't get involved in bigger things than yourself. And that doesn't mean you don't find causes that are important to be a part of. But what that means is not to get overwhelmed by things that you have no control over. So there's always something to be concerned about for all of us. If it isn't one thing, it's another. And that's why it's important for you to come up with your own filtering system, your own process to follow in the event that something unexpected occurs. And as you look at what's going on in the world, you then have a filtering system look at that through, almost like a lens that you can look at that through. And I believe that that will help you in decision making as you navigate your personal finances. So going into a brand new year, it was important for me to step into this year going over how to build a plan to spend, how to build your credit and maintain it, and how to manage your unsecured debt. Now, as I've been going through this overall theme going into the new year, it's important to look at the aspects, especially in light of the uncertainty that we do and do not have control over. And so what I did is I broke this down for today's episode into 5 steps. So these 5 steps really come down to looking at how much you owe to whom and being able to not only aggressively pay down that debt, but also to reduce the number of institutions you owe money to. So the first step comes down to maximizing your saving and your credit lines. So with that, what that comes down to is really looking at your finances from a standpoint of building margin. So obviously this is not a theme on savings. We will we'll be looking at that in this next theme coming up. But when it comes to savings, it is so important for you to look at how much savings you actually have available to you in cash reserves. Now, I mentioned before that your equity in your vehicle, or your equity in your home, or your credit lines, or whatever the case may be, that's outside of just having an emergency fund. Now, commonly referred to as 3 to 6 months of your living expenses, it's important to look back at your plan to spend. Look at how much you're spending in what category, get a total added up, and multiply that buy 3 to start and build it up to 6. Now, why I say that is it's important for you to have reserves. Most Americans do not have savings, and you can see the ramifications of those decisions in the lack of margin that people have in their finances. So my encouragement to you would be to build up and look at whether you have savings that could last in the event of a furlough or a downsizing of your company or some other emergency. So as I've mentioned before, margin really comes down to building options into your personal finances. So although it's really important for you to have equity in your home or in your vehicle, or even on your credit line of some kind or another, that is not an emergency fund. And as we look at savings as a theme coming up in the in the next month, it's going to be important for you to look at where you are putting your savings, if you have savings, and making sure that that savings is in an account that is yielding something better than leaving it under your mattress or in your savings account with your bank. Now, with that, it is important to look at your credit lines for this series, for this theme, and figure out how to maximize those. So oftentimes we don't have because we don't ask, and so we don't call our credit card company or the holder of our personal loan or whatever it is to see if we can take advantage of any special offers or any options we may have. And my encouragement for you with this step is to look at how you can contact the institutions that you have debt with and expand that credit line. And that just gives you options. Now, of course, you want to be careful if you have not built up that discipline that's necessary in order to manage that credit well. So really what this comes down to is it's any credit line you plan to keep and expanding that for a time period such as this that is uncertain. So the second step comes down to spending. It is important, especially in uncertain times, for you to be proactive in cutting your spending. Now, you can start by going back to your plan to spend and going over all of those individual items that build up into your plan to spend and being able to look at what things can stay and what things need to go. Now, also, I built out a 2-part series on the 7 steps of downsizing your life without anyone noticing. And I would encourage you to go back and look at that series because that will help you to figure out from a spending standpoint how you can cut the expenses in your life without necessarily having to relocate. If this information is helpful to you, please do like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you're reminded to come back on a daily basis and improve in managing your personal finances. Thank you for your time. Enjoy your day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.